Daf Yomi, Tractate Bava Metzia, page 50b, part 2, with the words, not exactly sure, but we'll start with the English part. The Gemara returns to discuss the dilemma, what is the halacha? The Gemara suggests come in here a resolution of the dilemma from the Mishnah. The merchants of Lod reverted to following the statement of the rabbis. Granted, if you say that one can claim nullification of the transaction according to the rabbis only within the time that it takes the buyer to show the merchandise to a merchant or to his relative, and according to Rabbi Tarfon, one can do so for the entire day. It is due to that reason that they reverted to following the statement of the rabbis. But if you will say that one can claim nullification of the transaction according to the rabbis and always renege on the transaction, why did they revert to following the statement of the rabbis? In that case, the ruling of Rabbi Tarfon is preferable for them, as he deems such a disparity exploitation, and rules that one can claim nullification of the transaction for the entire day and no more, which is more beneficial to the merchant. The Gemara answers, nullification of the transaction is uncommon, and therefore the merchants of Lod did not take that into consideration when calculating which ruling was most advantageous. The Gemara cites the halakhic resolutions of these dilemmas. Bava said, the halakha is that the disparity is less than 1/6. The merchandise is acquired immediately. If the disparity is greater than 1/6, either party can demand nullification of the transaction. If the disparity is precisely 1/6, the buyer has acquired the merchandise, and the one who benefited from the exploitation returns the sum gained by the exploitation, and one may claim both this nullification of the transaction and that return of the sum gained only within the time that it takes to show the merchandise to a merchant or to his relative. The Gemara comments, it is taught in a Braita in accordance with the opinion of Rava. In cases of exploitation, if the disparity is less than 1/6, the merchandise is acquired immediately. If the disparity is greater than 1/6, the transaction is nullified. If the disparity is precisely 1/6, the buyer has acquired the merchandise, and the one who benefited from the exploitation returns the sum gained by the exploitation. This is the statement of Rabbi Natan. Rabbi Yehoshua says, in a case where the seller was exploited, the seller is at an advantage. If he wishes, he reneges on the transaction and says to the buyer, give me my merchandise, or he can say, give me the sum that you gained by exploiting me. And one may claim both this nullification of the transaction and that return of the sum gained only within the time that it takes to show the merchandise to a merchant or to his relative. The Mishnah teaches, until when is it permitted for the buyer to return the item? He may return it only until a period of time has passed that would allow him to show the merchandise to a merchant or to his relative. Rav Nachman says, the sages taught this halakha only with regard to a buyer, but a seller may always renege on the transaction. The Gemara suggests, let us say that the Mishnah supports his opinion, as the merchants of Lod reverted to following the statement of the rabbis. Granted, if you say that the seller may always renege on a transaction,